Hello everyone, I'm Freaky and welcome to the video. Happy Halloween everybody. Yeah, I know. I've already made one Halloween special for this month, but I thought to myself, you know what, screw it, I'll make one more. And as for the other special, the top 10 horror channels, if you guys want to go and check out that channel, please do. And basically it's about channels that animate horror stories. And I'm telling you guys, these horror channels are so freaking awesome. So if you guys want to go and check out that video, please do. And also, please go and check out my other Halloween specials, if you guys haven't seen them already. There's some more on my channel, please go and check them out. There's the top 10 list of top lists. There's the top 10 hoaxes. There's the top 10 scary TV series. There's the top 10 Asian horror movies. And of course, the top 10 animated horror channels. So if you guys want to go and check them out, please do. And so that said, let's resume with the video. And today's theme for Halloween is black and white horror movies. Now, there's just one thing I want to say to all the millennials, Gen Zs, and whatever generation is watching this. Now, to all of you who likes modern horror movies and don't like anything older, because I know for a fact there's going to be people out there who likes the new stuff, the modern stuff, and they don't really like the old stuff, because people like that do exist, that they only watch the latest thing and watch the newest thing, and they'll watch things that's relatable to them in the modern era. And you know what? It's unfair. It's unfair that people don't give old media a chance. Because I'm going to say this now, if it wasn't for the old horrors, you wouldn't get the horrors that you watch today. In fact, I know for a fact that I'm going to get a lot of people angry with what I'm about to say, but today's media is garbage compared to the old stuff. And yeah, I know for a fact there's going to be people out there that's going to call me a boomer or an old millennial or something like that because I don't like new stuff. Well, you guys can call me whatever you want, but if it wasn't for the old stuff inspiring the new stuff, you wouldn't get your favorite movies or favorite characters or favorite villains and stuff like that. Because when I was growing up in the 90s, I was actually raised on 80s horror movies. But as I grew up, I did come to appreciate older horror movies. And of course, I'm talking about the black and white ones. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I have seen my fair share of black and white horror movies, from the beginning of cinema to the end of the black and white era. And you know what? Even though I think the 80s and the 90s was the best year for horror, because it was bloody and gory and they pulled no punches, I've actually came to appreciate and love black and white movies and series and so on. And you know what? That's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to check out old horror movies. Only because something's old doesn't mean it isn't good. And I'm telling you guys something, old black and white horror movies are just as good as any era of horror movies, in their own right of course. And that's exactly what I'm going to do today. I'm going to give you guys my top 10 black and white horror movies list for you guys to go and watch. Now listen, everything on this list is going to be my own personal favourites, and if you guys think there's other black and white horror movies that should have been on this list, please let me know in the comments below, okay? And this list is going to be movies that I want you guys to go and check out. And I promise you guys, you won't regret watching these old black and white horror movies, because these are the movies that inspired other creators to create the media that we love today. So I beg you guys to go and check out old horror movies that are in black and white. And this list of movies are going to be your starter for this Halloween. This is my top 10 black and white horror movies for Halloween. Here we go. And number 10 is the very first Godzilla film, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Yeah, I know some of you are thinking, and you're right. How is this movie supposed to be scary? Well, the thing is, you guys need to understand everything back in the day was very, very simple, and everybody trusted everybody, and cinema was somewhat new, and something like Godzilla has never really been seen before. But if you guys know Godzilla, you know why I chose him. He's an atomic radiation breathing giant freaking dragon. Okay, he's not a dragon, but he's still freaking cool. And to some of you who may or may not know, Godzilla was actually a metaphor for nuclear weapons, and Japan was nuked twice in World War II. And the aftermath and the reaction of Godzilla destroying everything, it has this sort of serious tone whenever something serious comes up. So yeah, some people might say that a giant monster movie wouldn't be that scary, but I disagree. Like, what would you guys do if a big giant monster that breathes fire came around and destroyed everything that you loved? Yeah, some people might call it silly, but the idea of an unbeatable monster destroying everything can be scary in its own right. And also, come on, it's the king of the monsters. I mean, what more do you want? So basically, it's about Godzilla, and he's destroying everything, and the humans have to try and destroy Godzilla. And that's basically it. It isn't anything too complicated, other than a giant monster destroying everything. In a way, you can say that Godzilla was one of the original monsters, but in this case, it was a giant monster. Like, Godzilla was one of the first of his kind. Like, Dracula was the first of his kind, the werewolf was the first of his kind, the mummy was the first of his kind, and so on and so on. So yeah, that's all I gotta say, and I highly recommend Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And so with that said, let's move on to the next one. And the next one is Freaks, 1932. Now, when it comes to this movie, you could say that it's one of the first come-up story. Like, for example, you know that series Tales from the Crypt, where the Crypt Keeper would tell stories about certain people, and some, if not most of them, are bad people. But eventually, in those stories from the Crypt Keeper, they would usually get their comeuppance in the story. And this is what this movie is. It is one of the first comeuppance stories. And basically, it's about these circus folk with all different types of disabilities. Like, one's a human torso, some are little people, one of them doesn't have a bottom half, there's a bearded lady, and so on and so on. And these were actual people who actually looked the way they looked in real life. And basically, the story is about this woman who's trying to get this wealth from this person who works at the carnival sideshow, and he falls in love with her, and she tries to kill him. And after learning what she was trying to do to him, the other carnival folk takes revenge on her. And in the end, well, I'll let you see what happens at the end. I don't want to spoil anything, but it really does have a good comeuppance story. Now, some people might say, oh, it's not scary, but again, it is something like from Tales from the Crypt, where bad people get their comeuppance at the end. That's what this movie feels like. I mean, heck, I've been hearing there's lots of controversy when it comes to this movie, and it was even bad in some places because of how horrifying it was. I mean, can you guys imagine if people from the 30s all the way to the 50s was to watch Hellraiser? Man, those guys would have nightmares for the rest of their lives. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about this one. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one is Night of the Hunter, 1955. And basically, it's about this man who hears about money that was stolen by this other person that was a robber. And so the man goes to try to find the money, which, by the way, the man is called Harry Powell. And he's a serial killer, and he tries to get all chummy with the locals, like he's being all nice and everything. And he tries to find the money that this robber hidden, and he goes to the robber's family. And, well, you guys have to go and check out for yourselves. I mean, the music's great, the story's great, the cast and acting's great. You could say that Harry Powell is one of the first famous serial killers in fiction on the big screen. So yeah, we know all about Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and Chucky and all that stuff, but I think Harry Powell was one of the originals. I said one of the originals. Yeah, sure, he's not supernatural like Michael, Jason, Freddy, Chucky, etc, etc, but still, he looks like the everyday guy, and that in itself is scary. Like, you wouldn't know it was him. Like, you could say that he is one of the first boogeyman that was ever shown on the big screen. And there's been people who's been saying that Night of the Hunter is underrated, and it doesn't get the praise that it should. And you know what? It is underrated, and it deserves a lot more love. So this is what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to watch this movie and introduce this movie to your friends, your family, and ask their friends to watch it, and then ask their friends' friends if they want to watch it. Because again, this movie is very underrated, and not a lot of people appreciate it. And if they ask, oh, is it a black and white film? Just say yes, but tell them to at least give it a chance. Tell them only because it's black and white doesn't mean it's going to be bad. And tell them about other black and white classics and get them to watch those. So yeah, that's all I've got to say about this one. Let's jump into the next one. And the next one is Onibaba. Okay, now you guys know I had to put in an old Japanese horror movie. I mean, come on, I love J-horror. And Onibaba is one of them. And basically it's about a mother-in-law and a sister-in-law killing samurai. They kill them, steal their things, and sell them just to make a living. And the old woman's son is out fighting a war or something, and then his friend comes back and tells the old woman that her son's gone, like dead. And so the daughter-in-law goes with her deceased husband's friend, and the mother-in-law doesn't like this, and so she tries to scare the daughter-in-law into staying with her. Yeah, I know, the way I say it like that, it doesn't sound very scary, but it does have some really creepy moments in it. There's a cursed mask, there's betrayal. It's a really good J-horror movie. I wouldn't say it's scary. In fact, there are other scary J-horror movies that are in black and white that is scarier than this. But I like the simplicity of this movie. Yeah, it can drag a little bit in some parts, but it's still a good movie in its own right. But there's one thing I'm going to warn you guys about, and that thing is the ending, because I have absolutely no idea how to make of it. At the end of the movie I was like, what the heck just happened? What happened next? The ending made me go, what, that's it? But once you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And I think my favourite things in this movie is the angles and that freaky looking mask. That thing was freaking creepy. Onibaba does have its downsides, but it also has its good sides too. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about Onibaba. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one is Nosferatu. Yeah, I know I botched that. Anyways, Nosferatu is basically the very first Dracula movie, and I'm going to say this now, there is no people speaking in this movie. It would just show the actions of the characters, and when they move their lips, letters will come across the screen. saying what the characters just said. And yeah, that's what you're in for, folks. But it does have music with the movie, so yeah. And again, this is the very first Dracula movie, except it's not Dracula, it's actually Count Orlok. And I'm gonna say this, even though it's basically Dracula, this isn't just a movie, it is a piece of history. It's one of the oldest, scariest movies, and Count Orlok is just, well, he's freaky. And also, fun fact, did you know that the people who was making this movie forgot to copyright the material from Bram Stoker's widow? And after a legal battle, Bram Stoker's wife had the film destroyed. But luckily, the film was saved through pirated copies. So yeah, even though it was supposed to be destroyed, it survived. At the very least, I think that's how it happened. And when it comes to this movie, you guys will have to do a lot of reading. And also, this movie actually creates the cliches that we know today. But back in the day, when people watched this, it was something new to them. So if you guys see this movie and you think it's creepy, imagine what other people was thinking when they first saw this movie back in the day. So again, this movie is basically the first Dracula movie. So go and do yourselves a favour and go and watch this historical masterpiece. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about this one. Let's move on to the next one. And the next ones are a tiebreaker. I'm sorry guys, I just had to do this one. And that thing is the classic Universal monsters. I mean, come on, can you guys blame me? It's the classic monsters that started it all. The most famous monsters in movie history. We have Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, the Wolfman, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and of course, Dracula. Now, in some of the sequels, they actually do crossover, like Frankenstein and the Wolfman, for example. And of course, they've got the sequels. Like, all these monsters made so many movies. And of course, you guys know who Dracula is. He drinks the blood of the living. There's also Frankenstein, brings the dead back to life. You have the Invisible Man, who is permanently invisible and becomes corrupted by power because of his invisibility. You have the Mummy, where an ancient mummy comes back to life and tries to bring back his lover back to life. You have the Wolfman, where this man turns into a werewolf. You have the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and the creature falls in love with a woman. But if I had to choose two movies for you to go and check out, it would definitely be Frankenstein and Dracula. These two are the most famous monsters in movie history. I really want you guys to check out these movies. These monsters are classics. Some of them can be scary, some of them can be sad, some of them can be funny. They are the first stars, the first movie monsters, and they deserve respect. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about these guys. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one is Quatermass the Pit. Now, this series slash movie is my personal favourite. And when it comes to this series slash movie, yeah, originally it was a series and then they cut down to a movie. But if I had to say which one you guys should go and watch, the movie version or the series version, I think watching the series version would be better. Like, watch one night, and then watch one the next night, and the one after that, one after that, one after that, every night. And it has 6 episodes, and it's around 30 minutes per episode. So you're looking around almost 3 hours if you were to watch it as a movie. So in my opinion, I think you guys should watch this movie one night at a time because of a few reasons. Number one, it's long. In movie format, around 3 hours long, so it would get tedious. And number two, it drags on in some places. Yeah, there's going to be some parts in the movie or series where it just drags on a bit, but at the same time, this movie has fantastic build-up, and we're always given these little pieces of information about what's happening in this movie. Well, basically, the movie is about a thing that was found in the ground, and nobody knows what it is. And so, they get this professor called Bernard Quatermass to help them solve what it is. And again, my god, the build-up to what this thing is fan-freaking-tastic. The mystery's fantastic, the music's fantastic, the characters are great, and the story is really, really good. The thing is, I really don't want to give too much away, because I don't want to spoil anything. And fun fact, years ago there was this countdown of the 100 Greatest Scariest Moments on Channel 4, and this movie was on that countdown, and that countdown was the reason as to why I watched Quatermass the Pit. And you know what? It didn't disappoint. So I highly recommend you guys go and check out Quatermass the Pit. Again, yeah, it might drag on a little bit, but it's all worth it in the end. I promise you guys will not regret. And so that said, let's move on to the next one. And the next one is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Now, I know all these movies I've said so far, and the ones I'm going to say after this one are classics. To me, whenever I see this one, I think classic. Invasion of the Body Snatchers feels like a B movie, and I mean that in a respectful way. It feels like a B movie, but at the same time, it's a freaking masterpiece. And back in the day, there was actually people who says this movie is about communism, or there was some parallels to say that this was a metaphor or something about communism. or something like that. I think it had something to do with the McCarthy trials or something. Well, basically, it's about two main characters and the place they live in this town. They start to see that the people that they know is starting to act strange, and as the movie progresses, they find out that they're being replaced or something else has happened to them because of pods. Yeah, they're these pods that is replacing everybody. Yeah, I know it sounds cheesy, but it is a really good movie. It really is. I mean, the thought of people you know being replaced by creatures from another planet and not being able to tell the difference unless you really take a good look at them. It is scary when you think of it like that. And saying that, I think this movie would be a top 10 in any list that involves the classics when it comes to classic horrors. That's how good this movie is. And you know what? I really can't blame them. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is one of the best movies ever. And so with that said, let's move on to the next one. And the next one is Night of the Living Dead. Now, when it comes to Living Dead, this is the movie that started the zombie craze, in a way. And there has been so many zombie films, and zombie games, and comic books. There's been comedies, there's been parodies. All your favourite zombie films all started with this movie. And basically, it's about a bunch of people trying to get away from these zombies. And that's basically it. And yeah, you know the basics. Everyone's trapped in this house, and they have to learn to get along, but everything breaks down, and so on and so on. I mean, come on, we've seen it so many times. But this movie started that formula. And you know what? In this movie, it freaking works. And fun fact, did you know that The Living Dead starred the very first black guy in a main lead? Yeah, the guy who played Ben was called Duane Jones or something. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. I'm reading his name as we speak. So yeah, I highly recommend Night of the Living Dead. It's suspenseful, it's scary, and is possibly the greatest zombie film ever made. Yeah, sure, we've got running zombies, alien zombies, magical zombies, scientifically made zombies, and all different sorts of zombies that could easily beat these zombies in a fight. I mean, yeah, all these different types of zombies that's out there are pretty scary and can do so much more damage than these walkers. But to me, the walking zombies are just as scary as any one of those zombies that I mentioned. Runners, aliens, scientifically made ones, they're all good in their own right, but the slow moving ones are just as creepy. And before I go on to the next one, I just want to bring in an honourable mention, and that honourable mention is Cat People. Now, I haven't seen this movie, but this movie has a famous scene in it that's responsible for the creation of one thing, and that is the jump scare. And basically, this woman is walking down the street, and she thinks she's being followed, and when she gets right to the bus stop, you hear something like a panther or something. And this was a big jump scare back in the day. This movie created the jump scare, which in my opinion I think is being overused in horror movies. But yeah, I just thought I might mention it. And so, let's make way to the last one. And number one is Psycho. Now, this movie is a right freaking classic. This is possibly one of the most iconic, famous movies of all time. This movie not only has one of the greatest twists in movie history, not only is the music great, the characters are fantastic, the pacing's great, and it has that famous shower scene. And when you think about it, whenever you see this movie and you hear that music goes wee 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 wee, whenever you're holding a knife, you probably think wee 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 wee. I mean, this movie is so freaking iconic and so memorable to a lot of people. And also, this movie also has sequels, and they're also great too. The third one's the weakest, but saying that, from best to worst, I think the first one's the best, the second one's the second best, the fourth one's the best, and the fourth one is the worst. Well, worst is a strong word, but it's decent in its own right. And yeah, the remake doesn't hold a candle to the original Psycho. And basically, it's about this woman who steals $40,000. And she goes on the run, and she comes across this motel, and she starts talking to this other character called Norman Bates, and they start talking about his mother and taxidermy and stuff like that. And so the woman decides to go back and make things right tomorrow, and when she takes a shower, she's killed by Norman's mother, and so Norman covers his mother's tracks, and he gets rid of the body and also gets rid of the money without even knowing there was money there. So at the beginning of the movie, where this woman steals all this money, you'd think it would, play a part in it, but it doesn't. Norman doesn't even know about the money, and so he throws the money alongside her body in the car and sinks it into a swamp. And yeah, I'm giving too much. And yeah, this movie is freaking awesome. It is one of the greatest horror movies ever told. I don't want to give too much away, so you guys will have to check out and see what else is up within this movie. I mean, back in the day when this movie came out, murderers and serial killers wasn't as frequent like they are today. So when people saw this for the first time, they'd probably think, oh my god, there's a serial killer. Man oh man, if those people only knew of what was going to happen in the future. So yeah, I highly recommend the movie Psycho. you guys will not regret. And that's my list. Now, I know for a fact there's loads of other black and white movies that could have been on this list, but I haven't seen every single black and white movie out there. So if you guys think there should have been other black and white movies on this list, or if there's any black and white movies that you guys want me to be introduced to, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll give them a shot. And the reason why I made this list is so the younger generation doesn't write off black and white movies because, oh, they're old. Anything old isn't good. And that's exactly the problem when it comes to the younger generation. All they like is their woke politics and their fancy special effects. But there's more to storytelling than special effects and woke agendas. Yeah, I've probably spoiled the video after saying the word woke, so I do apologise for that. All I'm trying to say is that the old stuff, in their own right, are just as good as any other story without special effects or putting anything political in them. A movie just needs really good storytelling, and that's all you need. And the black and white movies prove that, and that's all you really need, good storytelling. And this is what these black and white movies do. They tell a good story, and I highly recommend you guys go and check them out, the ones from this list and other black and white movies that you can find. And not every single black and white movie is going to be good. Just ask around and say, hey, which black and white movies are good, so I can go and check them out. So yeah, that's your little warning there. So please, give black and white movies a chance to prove that they can entertain you just as good as today's movies. Well, that's all I've got to say. So what do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you like black and white movies? Will you give black and white movies a try? Please let me know in the comments section below, and let's get a discussion going. I'm Freaky, and happy Halloween. Peace out. And please don't forget to check out my other social medias. Please go and check out my alternative video platforms, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Twitch, and please come and hang out on my Discord server. We can play games, have a movie night or a series night, or you can watch me play a few games. And if you guys have any suggestions of any videos you want me to react to, or any video ideas in general, you can tell me on my Discord. I'm also on Twitter, Gab, Getter, and Paula. I'm on Locals, Tumblr, Minds, and if you guys want to support me, please go and check out my Subscribestar. It's like Patreon, but better. All these things are in the description box below, so please go and check them out and subscribe to them. I'm Geek Freak. Peace out.